There's this whole invisible system that's constantly working to manage our planet's most dangerous materials, what we call hazardous waste. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this world of super strict rules and really high stakes. It's a system designed to protect all of us from the stuff we throw away.
So let's just start with a really basic question. What actually happens to the world's most dangerous garbage? Where does it go? The answer, you'll see, isn't as simple as a landfill or a recycling bin. Oh no, it is a highly regulated, very precise journey with a fascinating and sometimes, frankly, terrifying history.
To really get why we have these incredibly strict rules today, we have to rewind the clock a bit, back to a time when we didn't. See, before all these modern regulations, the answer to that question, what happens to the garbage, was often just a total disaster.
The real-world cost of getting this wrong has been absolutely devastating. You had mercury poisoning in Japan's Minamata Bay back in the 60s, then a massive chemical dump that poisoned the water for 10 million people in South Korea. These weren't just isolated accidents. They were gigantic alarm bells ringing all over the world. And finally, in 1976, U.S. lawmakers said enough and responded with a landmark law, the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, or RCRA. And that law established the core idea we're going to follow today.
Okay, so how do you even begin to regulate something so dangerous? Well, first things first, you have to be crystal clear about what you're dealing with. The first step is defining exactly what makes a waste hazardous.
It really boils down to 4 key characteristics. The first one is ignitable. This is pretty straightforward, right? It's waste that can easily catch fire. We're talking about flammable solvents or gases that could just, poof, go up in flames under the wrong conditions.
Second, you've got corrosive. This is material that can literally eat through steel. Think about that. We're talking about super strong acids or bases with extreme pH levels that can dissolve their containers from the inside out and cause horrific chemical burns.
Third is reactive. This category is all about instability. This is the unpredictable stuff. Wastes that can explode, release poisonous gases if they just get a little wet, or, just react violently without any warning at all. Dangerously unpredictable.
And finally, number 4 is toxic. This is waste that is, put simply, poison. Poison to us, poison to the environment. Even in tiny amounts, these materials can be fatal if they're ingested or absorbed, and they pose this massive threat to our groundwater and entire ecosystems.
But it's not just about those 4 big characteristics. Regulators also keep these long, detailed lists of specific chemical wastes they already know are dangerous. They're broken down by their source, so you've got everything from general industrial solvents on the F list to extremely toxic unused pesticides on the P list.
All right, so once a material is officially identified as hazardous, its journey begins. And this is a journey where every single step, and I mean every step, is tracked, documented, and controlled by law.
And a lot of the time, that journey starts with just storage, usually in those big steel drums. But even this first step, which seems simple, is a real trade-off. Sure, the drums are flexible and easy to move, but they're also vulnerable. They can get damaged, they can leak, and it can be really hard to see what's going on inside. So proper management is absolutely everything.
Now, moving the waste, that's even stricter. It's like a 5-step chain of command. You need the perfect container, exact labels, and you even need financial proof that you can pay for a spill if one happens. But the most important piece of this whole puzzle is step 3, the manifest. Think of it as the waste's passport. It is a legal document that tracks that material from the second it's created to its final disposal. It makes sure it never, ever gets lost.
So where does this high-stakes journey finally end? The last step is safe, permanent disposal. This is the grave in that whole cradle-to-grave system we've been talking about.
Now, there are several approved ways to do this, like specially designed landfills or injecting it way, way deep into the earth. But to see just how extreme these solutions can get, we're going to focus on one of the most powerful methods out there: incineration.
For some of the most stable and toxic chemicals ever made, things like PCBs, you need an incredible amount of heat to break them apart. We're talking about temperatures of 1200 degrees Celsius. That's hotter than volcanic lava. Just imagine that.
And at that insane temperature, the law requires an astonishing level of perfection. The incinerator has to achieve what's called a destruction and removal efficiency of 99.9999%. In the industry, they just call it the 6-9 standard. And what that means is, for every million toxic particles that go in, only 1 is allowed to come out. That level of control is just mind-blowing.
Now, with all these rules we've talked about, there is one category of waste that is so uniquely dangerous, it gets its own entirely different and even more stringent set of international laws.
And that, of course, is radioactive waste. The International Atomic Energy Agency classifies it into 4 degrees, and the handling requirements just escalate dramatically. So level 1 waste doesn't need a lot of special rules, but by the time you hit level 2, you need thick, shielded containers made of lead or cement. And level 4, that's the most dangerous stuff there is. It requires a permanent solution, like being buried deep inside stable rock formations, basically forever. So what's the one big idea that ties all of this together? From how we define the waste, to how we track its journey, to how we ultimately destroy it, it really comes down to the concept of an everlasting responsibility. And this brings us right back to that core philosophy, from cradle to grave. This is the heart of the RCRA law. It means that the company or the person who creates the hazardous waste is legally responsible for it forever, from its creation, its cradle, all the way to its final safe disposal, its grave. There's no passing the buck stops with the creator.
Which leaves us with a really critical question for our future. Our technology and our chemistry are always evolving. We're constantly creating new materials, and we don't always know what their long-term effects will be. So as we continue to innovate, we have to ask, how are we going to design and define the graves needed to safely contain the waste of tomorrow? It's a huge question, and definitely something to think about.